Hey everybody, it's week 10 of the NFL football season. In this video, I'll be sharing my picks and predictions for just about every game on the NFL this week. And in addition, if there's any bets I like in that game on top of my analysis, I'll be sure to throw those in there too. Let me know in the comment section what you think about my predictions and my bets. Let me know what you're riding with this week. Let me know what you're thinking about just the video in general too. Love the feedback and love interacting with you guys. As always, if you like the content I'm putting out, like and subscribe so you can keep viewing this content week in and week out and not miss a beat with me. Want to remind you guys too that you should be following us on Twitter at Profit of Picks. A lot of times we'll be showing our bets for the week in our weekly card. You see this week in week 9, we had a pretty decent week betting. Just hoping that the Bears can put up a few more points on Monday Night Football and, hang on. Just all they have to do is lose by single digits and we'll be happy. So keep an eye on that if you're in the NFL gambling scene. We also tweet out our other cards and other sports as well as just general betting advice as well. And then, as always, too, if you're looking for daily fantasy, if you're a state that doesn't have sports gambling like California, Texas, Florida, sign up for Prize Picks using our code PROPICS. They'll match your deposit up to $100 too, which is great. And getting into the football games here. First one that we have on the schedule here is Buccaneers at the Washington football team. Both teams are coming off a bye. Buccaneers like still one of the best teams in football, coming off a Super Bowl win, obviously. Washington football team, very disappointing this year in terms of their production after winning the division last year, albeit with a losing record. The fact is here is going to happen is probably what happens most weeks when the Buccaneers play really bad teams. They're going to beat up on them. They're going to rely on their really strong run defense in their front seven to force the Washington football team to be really relying on their passing game. And you see Taylor Heineke here in the picture. He's not a quarterback that you want as a franchise to be relying on to win you the games with his arms. You want to have a balanced offense when you have a quarterback with his about average talent over there and a little bit of playmaking skills, but not the best decision-making skills for sure. The Bucs are going to really make this Washington football offense one-dimensional in their pass game, and they might have some success because the Bucs defense is pretty depleted in the secondary and one of the worst in the leagues. But I don't really care because I think the Washington football team is so bad normally, even when they're playing a balanced offense, that when they get so one-dimensional and relying on the pass game with Taylor Heineke's arm, they're going to completely fall apart. In addition to that, the Washington football defense has been terrible this year, especially in their secondary. So a lot of passing yards this game, but I expect Tom Brady, the Buccaneers offense with his weapons with like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, to really pick apart this defense. Antonio Brown too. A lot of points, a lot of passing yards, a lot of deep balls for Tom Brady in that offense. I expect the Buccaneers to win by a lot. I'm not going to touch the game because I could see somehow Washington football with the backdoor cover. 9.5 points is a lot to cover for the Buccaneers, but I think they're going to easily roll over the football team in week 10. It was a pretty good matchup of teams that I'd say surprised a lot of people this last couple of weeks. Saints with a pretty big upset loss against the Falcons, and the Titans with a really big upset win against the Rams on Saturday Night Football. I think it's going to be an interesting game, and I think this -3 line is misleading a little bit. I think the public probably sees this line, sees the Titans beat a really good football team against the Rams and see the Saints lose. It's a pretty bad football team against the Falcons, and everyone's going to want to jump over the Titans -3 here and think they're going to roll to an easy victory. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to be a big situation where the Saints defense is going to keep them in the game. They're going to shut down Adrian Peterson and whatever other running back the Titans are throwing at him, because there's a lot of big bodies in that Saints front seven, a lot of dudes that are really able to stop the run, maybe the best run stopping unit in the NFL. I think that's a pretty good players in the secondary too, to kind of at least slow down this Tennessee offense. Tennessee only put up 28 against the Rams, and 2 of those touchdowns were one was the defensive touchdown, and one was basically a defensive touchdown where they only needed to go like 4 yards for their touchdown. So really only 14 call them pure offensive possessions points for the Titans against the Rams. This offense isn't that incredible. The Saints are going to keep this game close, and so I really like the under here. Mike Vrabel, one of the best defensive minds in the NFL, very underrated as a head coach. He's going to scheme up and do his best to shut down Trevor Siemian in this Saints offense. But I think that with the Saints defense capabilities, Sean Payton will do just the same for the Titans. I like the under here. I think it's going to be a really close game and a much closer game than people think about. Another one here, the other team that's favored by a lot of points. Cowboys at home gets a pretty bad loss against the Broncos, taking on the Falcons at home. I think last week was a big wake-up game for the Cowboys. They were coming off a bye week. They're on one loss. They recovered every game. Not that Not that they really were too concerned about that, but they were definitely they had Super Bowls in their sights. They were talking themselves up. They were getting really hyped up, and they were looking ahead in the schedule for sure. They were looking towards the playoffs and really blowing by the season mentally. I think they needed that tough, disgusting loss to Denver to really bring them back down to earth and make them realize that this is still the NFL. No matter who you're playing, wins don't always come easy. I think they're gonna beat up on the Falcons, who again are without Calvin Ridley, their best receiver. And their defense for the Falcons stepping up a little bit and playing a little better than people expected, but their run game is still really not there. And if you can stop Cordell Patterson, his Falcons offense, as funny as that is to say, um, you can really limit what they're doing because he's kind of their Swiss Army knife in the rushing game and the passing game. Cowboys have a lot of playmakers, a lot of athletic playmakers on defense that can handle these guys. I'm thinking Micah Parsons in particular can do it all for that team, along with Trayvon Diggs in the secondary too. I really think the Falcons kind of have a hangover after beating the Saints, and the Cowboys have a big bounce back win. I'm not touching -9 because again, it's hard to predict a team to win by double digits or not. But I do think the Cowboys are going to win this game easy. Here's a game that I think is going to be one of the best in the NFL Week 10. The Browns take on the Patriots. A couple teams with some big wins on Sunday. You can see this game is basically a pick 'em with the Browns, maybe shedding some dead weight with Odell Beckham now gone. The Patriots, as I keep saying, just about every video, start to look stronger and stronger each week, especially on offense. Mac Jones really getting footing in that offense. What I like here in this matchup is the Browns rushing attack, and I think that it's hard for any defense, any team to stop them and slow that down. Baker Mayfield really, his performance comes and goes with the run game. If the Browns can establish a run game, set up a good effective play action pass, Baker's lights out. But when they have to rely on Baker to throw the ball down the field all the time to pick up first downs and second and long down and distances, that's when they start to struggle. I think that the Browns are going to get back to what they do well, like you saw against the Bengals, run the ball, play solid defense with really big playmakers like Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. And I think I like the Browns to win this game, and I like the under to win in this game. These are two really good defenses in the NFL. A lot of big playmakers on the defense side for both teams. Obviously, Bill Belichick, probably, in my opinion, the greatest defensive mastermind football's ever seen. I think he can really figure out the weaknesses in this Browns offense and make them throw the ball more than they're comfortable with. That being said, I don't think this Patriots defense in front seven is big enough to slow down the Browns run game enough where it's going to give the Patriots the win. These are two teams that want to do the same thing. They want to run the ball, control the clock, and create easy third downs for their quarterbacks to make nice check off dump throws for easy first downs on a short third down. Who's going to win that matchup? In my opinion, I think it's going to be the Browns because I think they have the stronger run game and just a slightly more experienced quarterback and bigger playmakers on defense with Myles Garrett, who right now is the favorite for defensive player of the year, and Denzel Ward, who's one of the best young cornerbacks in the game. But I expect a low scoring game here with both teams running a lot of clock too. So Browns end under this game, but this is going to be a really good game to watch if you like good old school football. Bills coming off a really terrible loss against the Jaguars, facing the Jets, who also got blown out by the Colts. That's nothing new for the Jets franchise. This is a tricky one to predict because the Bills haven't looked right, not just last week, but in the last few weeks. Their offense really has not clicked at all. Even when they're winning football games, Josh Allen, that offense, they haven't clicked. They haven't looked like the offense that can put up 30-plus points with ease, no matter who they're playing, and especially because they've been playing really poor football teams in the last few weeks. And the Jets, sometimes they show up, sometimes they get blown out by 30. That's just what the Jets do. This is a team that they're playing football. They always play football. They have really no offense. They're always rotating guys at quarterback. Sometimes their defense, it was always a really tough defense. They really show up to play and give their team a chance to win. Sometimes they don't. I think this game, the Bills, who've been struggling lately, and a divisional game on the road in New York, I really like the Jets plus 13.5. That might be my famous last words. Might be the dumbest thing I ever say in one of these videos, but I am going to take the Jets 13.5 just because the Bills look like they can't do anything on offense right now. And this Jets defense, especially their front seven, is very tough, very gritty football. And I think that might just be what it takes to slow down the Bills offense a little bit. So I think the Jets 13.5 is a lot of points for a team that's struggling to cover. For the Bills, I think the Jets might be able to hold on. I also like the under this game, and that is because I think this is going to be a very hard-fought football game between divisional opponents, especially I like it more that it's in New York because I think that gives them a little more incentive with their home crowd behind them to play a little bit harder football. They're coming off a long week playing Thursday Night Football in Week 9, so they got a little bit of time to study the film and see what did the Jags do to slow down Josh Allen and the Bills. What did the Dolphins do to slow down Josh Allen and the Bills? Robert Saleh, one of the best defensive coaches in the NFL, too. I think if anyone, he's got a good head and shoulders for the defensive mind of the football. Study some film, figure out what the other teams are doing to contain the Bills offense. They're going to do the same thing in a tight divisional matchup. Again, the Bills are still going to win this game. Don't get me wrong. They're not going to drop 2 games against 2 really bad football opponents. But right now, they just don't look like the Bills that I'm used to seeing, and not like the Super Bowl contender Bills that I think this team is. To fit another divisional matchup here, again, a really bad team playing a pretty good football team with the Jags and the Colts. Jags probably flying high off their win against the Bills. The Colts, a long week coming off the Jets. Again, when you get in this territory, when a team's favored by 10.5 points, two scores, it's pretty tough to predict that spread. I think there's no doubt in my mind the Colts are going to win this football game. This is a team that is really good at beating really bad football teams. When it comes to playing the playoff caliber football teams, I don't think the Colts are there to make that step. And I think a big part of that is Carson Wentz and his penchant for making turnovers. So I think you're going to see the Colts on offense do the exact same thing that they did to the Jets and just feed the ball to Taylor behind that great O-line they had there in Indianapolis. The Jaguars, while their defense looked really good against Buffalo, I don't think it's not a representative sample of how good this defense actually is. They played out of their mind that game in front of their home crowd. That was basically the Jaguars Super Bowl beating the Bills this year. I don't think they're going to be able to do that twice against the Colts, who have a much better run game than the Bills do, and honestly, probably a better run game than almost all 32 teams in the NFL. So you're going to see a lot of what you saw against the Jets. Colts are just going to dominate and play bully football against a less physical, inferior football team than the Jaguars. Lions Steelers, this is a game that, again, high spread for the Steelers. I don't think I would love them to cover just because that's a lot of points. But Lions coming off a bye week here, haven't won a game all season, haven't really looked competitive many games all season. They've had a few bad games go their way. They probably should have 1 or 2 wins in the W column. But regardless, they haven't looked great at times. Their defense secondary is decimated with Jeff Okudah, their star cornerback, who hasn't played like a star, being out. They really don't have much of a pass rush on defense. I just think the Pittsburgh Steelers, with Big Ben, who's a veteran quarterback, pretty solid wide receivers and a budding young running back in Najee Harris, I think they're going to beat up in this Lions defense, who just really has nothing going for them. I do think the Lions are going to compete this game a little bit, just because anytime there's a team who's winless in the NFL, they start to take every game more and more seriously, because no one wants to be that team that's immortalized for winning 0 games in a season. So that starts to weigh a little bit heavier on your shoulders. I don't think that the Lions are going to win this game, but I do think they're going to compete coming off a bye, like I said, trying to get their win. And because of that reason, I like the over this game. Like I said, the Lions defense is just flat out terrible. I think that Big Ben and the Steelers are going to have a pretty easy time moving the ball downfield, putting up a lot of points themselves. And while the Steelers defense is very good, especially their front seven, something tells me that the Lions are going to have something coming up their sleeves, coming off a bye week. They're going to pull some tricky stuff out of the book to try to get a win this season. I think they're going to be down early, so they're going to be in pass mode with Jared Goff all day, and they're just going to be having to push the ball down the field and be in desperation mode to put up points to compete with the Steelers. Because of that, I think it's a recipe for the over at 43, which is a pretty low total, all things considering. Another good game this week. You got the Vikings playing the Chargers. Vikings coming off a pretty brutal loss against the Ravens, where they were up by 14 at times, had the ball in overtime, couldn't do anything with it. And the Chargers with, I'd say a slightly impressive win against the Eagles, but I really don't think much of the Eagles team anyways. So 2 teams that kind of trending the opposite directions right now. Chargers are top of the AFC West right now. Minnesota is at 3-5, I think, trying to fight for a playoff spot. What I think is you're going to see a lot of the Vikings, what you did against the Ravens. They're going to come out with a lot of fight. They're going to pass the ball a lot down the field. They're going to get a healthy dose of Dalvin Cook, who's obviously capable of ripping off a big play at any time. And I think these guys are a little bit hungrier than the Chargers, sitting at 3-5 versus the Chargers at 5-3. The only difference here is that the Vikings aren't going to be going up against Lamar Jackson, who's got plenty of double-digit comeback wins this season. I don't think that the Chargers are capable of that. I think that honestly, the Chargers letting the Eagles hang around with them as much as they did kind of dropped their stock for me, despite the win. The Eagles, in my opinion, are a very poor football team, especially on offense. When you let Jalen Hurts throw the ball with that much ease, that's a big red flag for me because I really don't think he's one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. I think the Vikings, again, feeling a little bit of pressure, feeling a little bit of desperation, should have won the game against the Ravens, who are a much better team than the Chargers, anyways, as you saw by the Ravens beating the Chargers by about 40 a couple of weeks ago. I think the Vikings are going to come out here just as strong with as much firepower as they did against the Ravens. I think they're going to win the game outright, but even if they don't, I think plus 2.5's a pretty good safety bet. Like I said, I think this is a game the Vikings need to win, and I think they're going to get done this time. Again, their offense, it's just all about if their offense decides to go off or not. They have all the talent in the world on offense. If these guys can get going like they did against the Ravens, I think they'll be fine this game. Here's a game that's questionable, a questionable game, not because of the spread or because of the outcome, but just because of the injuries. Panthers and Sam Darnold, who can't seem to really throw the ball downfield at all to save his life. His wide receivers are getting fed up with him. And the Cardinals, who last Sunday were missing their two biggest players on the team, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, still able to find a way to pull out the win against the San Francisco 49ers, which is a surprise for a lot of people, including myself. So if Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins play, which is a big thing to watch throughout the entire week, I think I love the Cardinals here, -10. But that's obviously contingent on if they're playing and how healthy they are. Even if Kyler Murray and Hopkins are in, something to keep an eye on is, are they playing in practice each week? Are they full go or are they limited? Are they game time decision and downfield the whole week and they thrown in their last minute? That's something to keep an eye on too, because these guys are dealing with injuries in their ankle and their hamstring. Those are two injuries that are really going to limit your mobility and your explosiveness in the field. And those are two guys that, if those are hampered, then their play is really going to decline. So keep an eye on Kyler Murray, especially, and DeAndre Hopkins. If these guys are in there, I expect them to roll over the Panthers, who do have a good defense. But like I said, if the Cardinals' offense is at full health, these guys are seemingly unstoppable right now. And the Panthers really don't seem to be putting up any points lately with Sam Darnold just throwing the ball to anyone in the opposite team's jersey right now, even with Chris McCaffrey back. If I'm Matt Rhule, the coach of the Panthers, I'm honestly benching Sam Darnold and throwing in any backup quarterback, any guy at the street, because it seems like anyone right now can be doing a better job than Sam Darnold. So I like the Cardinals to win big here, on the caveat that their players are pretty healthy. Like I said about the Eagles, I don't think they're a great football team. They're taking on the Broncos, who just had a really big win against the Cowboys. Honestly, so I have the Broncos -3 here, which seems honestly like a really big trap bet. Like I said, Eagles coming off a loss, Broncos coming off a big win at home against a team that many people thought was one of the best in the NFL, and the Cowboys. So this definitely seems like a trap game here. If you're going to take any of my bets, beware this one the most, because this is the one I'm least confident in. But again, the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is not an accurate passer. I'm seeing this guy miss, like Devonta Smith running 10-yard outs to the first down when it's most quarterbacks in the NFL make that pass and pick up the first down, move the chains. He's missing these easy throws. Doesn't really pass the eyeball test for me. Obviously, Jalen Hurts has that added X factor with his legs, and that adds another wrinkle to that offense, which really helps keep that Eagles offense moving. I don't know if it's going to be enough against the Broncos, who have one of the best secondaries in the NFL, have just proven they can shut down offenses as potent as the Dallas Cowboys too. I'm hoping the Broncos ride what they got out against that win against the Cowboys, bring that to the Eagles game too. In my opinion, the Broncos are just a hard-nosed, run the ball down and throw football team, play really physical football, and that's not what the Eagles are right now. And that's why I'm giving the Broncos the edge, more because of that physicality factor and the fact that their defense, they're going to come out, they're going to play hard, they're going to shoot the gap, they're going to get after the quarterback quick, early and often. I think they're going to wear down the Eagles with their sheer physicality of their play. I think it's going to make the difference. Again, I can see this -3 line. It's just screaming trap game. I'm ignoring it. I'm ignoring the red flags, and I think I like the Broncos to win and to cover -3. Here's game 2. Should be really good. The Packers are getting Russell Wilson back, or the Packers who are getting Aaron Rodgers back, hosting the Seahawks who are getting Russell Wilson back. This is going to be a really good game, I think, just because you got two premier quarterbacks with Wilson and Rodgers facing off. Wilson's definitely hungry to get back in that football field, and if his fingers are full go, I expect him to be slinging the ball down the field. Aaron Rodgers, same way. Once you keep these guys off the football field for a little bit, they just get so antsy and anticipating and get back on. I expect these guys both to go off and explode, and that's why I like the over in this game at 50. Seahawks defense especially very low tier defense in the NFL. I expect Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon to break off big chunk runs, and then Aaron Rodgers to do his thing against a not that great secondary in the Seahawks. Find his boy Devontae Adams, connect early and often there, put up a lot of yards between that combo, and put up a lot of points. And then the spread here of -4 is implying to me that, odds makers think that the Seahawks are going to compete this game and stay in the game. Again, I think the Packers are going to put up a lot of points. I think the Packers are going to win this game. But I think Russell Wilson is just so talented that he's going to find a way to make the Seahawks compete. And that's why I think it's Russell Wilson more so than Aaron Rodgers that I think pushes this game over for me. I'm pretty confident that Aaron Rodgers is going to put up 24 to 30 points this game. If the Seahawks want to compete, which the spread is implying that they're going to, Russell Wilson also coming off a few weeks of rest. He's going to come out firing. I'm excited to watch this game. Packers win a close one in a very high-scoring game, I think. Here's a weird game for me with the Chiefs and the Raiders. Raiders coming off a loss to the Giants, who are, again, a terrible football team. Chiefs coming off only a 6-point win against the Packers, who were throwing out Jordan Love, who looked really subpar, in my opinion, especially for a first-round pick. The Packers spent on him 2 years ago. Again, the Chiefs just don't look like themselves on offense. They only put up 13 points. They've been losing games to, not great opponents. They got a really tough schedule ahead. This is almost a must-win game for the Chiefs, but their offense has not looked great at all. Teams are really starting to figure out the Chiefs' offense, and they're eliminating the big chunk play, the deep bombs to guys like Kelsey and Hill that the Chiefs are so accustomed to getting the last few years. And that just seems to be messing with the minds of the Chiefs offensive players. They're just being forced to play dink and dunk football on offense, and that's just not working for them because they're not patient enough. In addition to that, throw in the fact that the Raiders have a pretty good pass rush led by Max Crosby, and really good secondary, surprisingly, led by Casey Hayward there at cornerback too. I honestly think the Raiders are going to win this football game. The divisional match is definitely going to be close. If you want to play it safe, take the Raiders +2.5. It's about to be +3 in soon enough time. I do think this is a must-win game for the Chiefs. And normally when the Chiefs are playing a must-win game, they're going to win. But something about them this year, they just don't look right. They're not passing the eyeball test. Patrick Mahomes is throwing for sub-200 yards against the Packers somehow. And the Packers don't even have as good as a defense, or at least not as good as a secondary as the Raiders do. I'm going to be intrigued to watch this game because this is going to be really a real telltale sign of who the Chiefs are this year, playing the divisional opponent. Even when the Chiefs are winning 12, 13 games a year, they struggle with their divisional rivals and the Raiders. I think it's going to be a really good game, but I think the Raiders edge it out because of the offensive woes the Chiefs have been having, not being able to force the ball downfield like they're used to, and the fact that still the Chiefs have basically the worst defense flat out in football, especially their run defense. Josh Jacobs and the Raiders offensive line is going to try to establish, that line of scrimmage really early, set up short passing yards for Derek Carr and him to do his thing. And that's where that Raiders offense thrives the most, is the second and third down and short, because you got two great targets in the third down situation with your big tight end, Darren Waller, and your really good slot receiver, Hunter Renfrow. That's where the Raiders thrive. And I think that they can pick up decent sized gains on the run on first down. It's going to set up this offense for a lot of success. I think I like the Raiders here to win the football game. Rams coming off a loss against the Titans on Sunday night. Pretty brutal loss, as they were favored by like 7.5 points against them. And then also the Niners coming off a brutal loss, losing to Colt McCoy and that Cardinals team. This is a weird game for me that I'm not going to bet on, but I do think this is a game where the Rams need to bounce back because they need to compete with this division lead in the Cardinals, who even without Kyler Murray are showing no signs of slowing down. The Niners have had the tough luck of the draw is hosting their divisional opponents 2 weeks in a row, both of them coming off losses. I think that adds to it, as neither the Rams nor the Cardinals really are looking to lose 2 straight games as competitive that division lead is in the NFC West. That being said, I think the Niners are a pretty subpar football team. They haven't lived up to any of my expectations they've done this year. Jimmy Garoppolo seems to be regressing, or at least showing his true colors at quarterback in San Francisco, being a true game manager. George Kittle coming back really helps the Niners, but the lack of production from second-year wide receiver Brandon Ayuk is really struggling and transferring a lot of the load on the shoulders of Deebo Samuel, who's been great this year, but he can't do it all. I think the Rams are going to try to run the football a lot, establish that like they did against the Titans, but the fact that they got down early against the Titans made them run away from the run game. You got Bob Trees, Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp are a great wide receiver tandem, but I think the Niners can have a hard time stopping. I'm not going to bet on -4 because usually this game smells to me like whoever's going to win this game is going to win it by the last minute field goal. And so I'm probably partial to Niners +4, but I'm not going to bet that. I like the Rams to win. You're trying to bounce back and not give the Cardinals too much space for their division lead, because that's going to be a tight race down the stretch, and you're not going to want to give a lot of cushion for the Cardinals there. So I like the Rams here to win in a really close game, actually, in Santa Clara. I'm just going to want to recap for you guys all the picks I'm taking just straight up in case you're in any confidence leagues or anything other like that, just picking games straight up and want to do a big money line parlay or something like that. Here I got all the favorites, nothing crazy. Like, the Bills, Bucks, Cowboys, Colts, these teams are all favored by plenty of points. The Titans, who I think that -3 is trap game, but I still think they're going to get it done. Just because of the fact that I don't think a team, Trevor Siemian-led team, can beat a Mike Vrabel coached football team, who's just really looking good right now, even despite Derrick Henry. And then the Rams trying to avoid 2 straight losses in that NFC West division, stay competitive with the Cardinals there for the lead. Here, this is a game where I got a little bit more upsets here. Most notably, I think the Browns, who were only underdogs by 1 point, I think they're going to go into Foxborough and win the game just because of the factor of their physicality in the run game. The Patriots front seven, while good, is a little bit undersized than most defensive lines. I think that's going to make the big difference for the Browns, really getting to push out the ball, and Nick Chubb going to get big chunk plays. The Vikings here, this is a 3-5 team that on paper and their roster is much better than 3-5. They're at the very least a 500 football team. And so I think they're going to take it to the Chargers, who might be thinking they're better than they are after beating an Eagles team last week that I don't think is all that talented all around as a football team. So Vikings kind of in a must-win game here. And then the Raiders against the Chiefs. I think that's a night game, maybe Monday night game, not too sure. But Sunday night game. I think the Chiefs just don't look right in offense. Patrick Mahomes doesn't look right. They're really out of their element. Teams are finally figuring out a way to play them. I think if the Raiders are any bit smart, they're going to do the exact same thing that all these other teams in the NFL have been doing to the Chiefs, and just hoping for the Chiefs to not make an adjustment. That being said, Andy Reid is one of the best coaches in the NFL and one of the best coaches in NFL history. If someone's going to make an adjustment, it's him. Will his players be able to implement those adjustments? That's yet to be seen. So for that reason, I'm taking the Raiders, who even coming off a bad loss against the Giants, I kind of saw that coming, honestly. They're playing a really bad Chiefs defense. They're going to run the ball a lot with their bowling ball, Josh Jacobs. They got good enough weapons, and Derek Carr is looking really precise at quarterback this year so far. I think that with a reliance on Max Crosby getting a few big pressures and maybe a couple sacks against Patrick Mahomes, and Casey Hayward has been really lights out at quarterback this year. I think the Raiders will win this one on a last-second field goal in Las Vegas. So that's what I got for you guys this week. I know this video went a little bit longer than normal. That's just because I wanted to cover more games. If you liked it, please let me know in the comment section what you think, what games you're picking, where you disagree with me. Please be sure to give this video a like, subscribe for me too, if you will. And let me know what you're betting on this week, because that's getting more and more prominent in the NFL scene these days. So I'd like to hear what you guys got and you guys bouncing off your ideas with me. But no matter what you're doing, picking the games, watching the games, betting on the games, best of luck and enjoy in week 10 of the NFL.